Remote work. It's
Hi, Nguyen. Mark Allen from Gaper. Nice to meet you today. How you doing?
good. How about you?
Good. And are you in Honolulu right now?
Yes, I am.
All right, cool. I'm in, for reference, I'm in San Francisco.
Okay.
So we're not that far off in terms of time zones. So why don't you just start with share a brief introduction, a background of yourself and your work experience.
I went to Cal and I was recruited
Hmm.
from Berkeley to join Meet Brothers in 1991.
Hmm.
So did investment banking, corporate finance. And I think I got through the initial interviews because my first round interview was at the hotel at Berkeley, and then it was raining.
Hmm.
And the interview, it came up to 2 o'clock. I said, "Oh, I got to go train with the cycling team."
Hmm.
And the two interviewers, one of whom had fallen asleep, woke up and said, "Well, it's raining. You still ride? Like every day, rain or shine, you got to put in the work." So I think
Hmm.
they thought that was a great attribute for investment banking analysts when they wanted to work 100 hours a week or more.
Yes.
So that got me into investment banking, and then you quickly learn you don't want to do advisory work forever, even if you get paid $500 an hour or something. It's still working hourly for someone else. So then everybody's goal was to get on the principal side. So actually through sailing, I got out to LA and started sailing with someone who was in a private equity firm, and I started working for him. And a few years later, we started Global Crossing and took it public in '98.
Oh, yeah.
So that was with Gary Winnick. And then I was working and living in Europe for 6 years, built the terrestrial fiber optic network for Global Crossing. And then in May 2001, all my equity vested, sold everything, bought a sailboat, and ended up sailing to Hawaii. And I've been here since.
Wow. Well, I can certainly understand why, having been there. So that's great. That's a really interesting background. That's from investment banking to sailing to Hawaii. Wow. Yeah. And I do know some people that work in that industry, and they burn you out pretty good.
Yeah. So luckily I was only in investment banking for about 5 years before making the transition, and it's a lot nicer. And actually, Hawaii is great because if you have that kind of background, it's pretty easy to find new opportunities and help people out here.
Yeah, well, good.
That's how I got into new ventures, and most recently, two ventures that revolve around remote work.
Okay, cool. So now that you brought it up, speaking of remote work, what's your experience with remote employment, both as a remote employee and as someone who hires remote employees?
Well, when I first landed in Hawaii, I didn't work for 4 years. I had the boat and we just sailed around a lot. And then, I just had to go back to work, and I quickly realized that office work wasn't for me, and that I could work much more effectively, as a consultant on my own time and get paid for the work that I did instead of punching a clock. So I think I was an early believer in remote work. And actually, it's only been the last year or so that I've seen companies really adopt remote work and new ventures start around remote work. So Instant Teams is a company that was started by two military spouses one was a developer, a high-end developer, and coding, etc. And she often had to build teams, remote teams around projects to deliver key software products. And so she went in with her partner, and they decided that, hey, instead of working these projects all the time, why don't we start a venture that actually builds remote teams and places remote workers, and they focus on military spouses. So they have a growing network of about 8,000 military spouses who you probably know are pretty highly educated, English, great English speakers, and they're around the world on military bases, etc. So they have 24/7 availability. So that was a new venture, and I met them through my network, and they didn't have much finance expertise. So I came on and helped them raise money, and gave them, did the strategic financial planning, et cetera, stuff that I usually do on the finance side. But they educated me about remote work, and I saw how it could be leveraged to build businesses around. So we were successful in raising 1.5 million for them, and that came off the back of another like 1.8 million raise that I did for an energy company, energy storage company here in Hawaii. So yeah, being in Hawaii, quickly realized that it's a waste of time to deal with the angel network here, because in Hawaii you have a lot of people who made a little bit of money, and then they come to Hawaii and they throw around that money, or the idea of that money, to build their social equity. So they say, oh, I've got money to invest, and then they go to all these venture capital events and social events, and social clubs, outrigger club, yacht club, etc. And then as a new venture, you spin your wheels around a lot, and you pay lawyers to get all the documents together. And then when it comes time to actually sign the check, they say, oh no, this really isn't for me.
Wow.
So that happens a lot in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of a waste of time. So you end up working with people and the networks that that you trust. Yeah, like everything else.
Yeah,
I think especially around money and new ventures, you go with the network that you know.
And is some of that network in Silicon Valley by chance?
Silicon Valley, LA, New York. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So in terms of remote employment, what do you think the future holds for remote employment from what you've seen?
I think it has tremendous potential. So there are two kinds. Instant Teams was really focused around strictly remote work. So you had these, pretty much stay-at-home spouses and retirees, et cetera, who just have time on their hands, and they can get in their home office and do work like this. So like medical records, insurance claims, even travel arrangements, or customer service for a company like Cisco or something. They just they have a computer, and then the company like Cisco will get them onto their VPN, train them on all their systems, and then they just clock in and clock out remotely. So one key thing, it always comes down to execution and the details. So the challenges of remote work are recruiting, training, and then actual operations, so time and attendance. So for instance, Teams automated their payroll and invoicing, and how it had been done before was it was just strictly manual. They had their time and attendance done in T-sheets, and then they would print out a report from T-sheets every twice a month, and then manually enter it into the payroll system of Gusto, and then manually pay. So obviously that wasn't scalable, and it led to a lot of errors. But then a lot of companies say that they will automate it. Like ADP says that they actually have a ADP or QuickBooks, and then QuickBooks actually bought T-sheets. So one would think that they had the automation there, but they don't. And we ended up having to use ADP. And then I had to come up with this matrix of 180 by 5 items, so that we could get all the different pay rates for the different roles, and to different pay rates and invoicing rates. And because we had someone who was really good at on the ADP implementation team, they implemented it. But 3 months after the implementation, they told us that they could no longer support it, because that level of complexity they usually don't do, because ADP is worldwide, and they just don't do that.
Wow.
So we had to give that up. So remote work, it sounds like it can be easy to implement, but there are challenges in each and every step of the process. So they always, like every other startup, it comes down to execution and detail oriented, and just doggedness to get things done properly.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. And you're a startup. I don't know if your company is a startup. It's Aloha Hospitality, correct?
Aloha Hospitality is a spin-off of a traditional catering company.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's the current company I'm working with. And yeah, it's a Gourmet Events Hawaii has been around for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a slow growing market, catering, traditional catering. But the founder of the company has a strong focus on culture.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, she has developed a great reputation in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So a national company, Nausta, that makes automated time and attendance and staffing platforms. They
Mm-hmm.
do everything from time and attendance to payroll to invoicing. She was approached by them to be the preferred staffing provider nationwide because Nausta started as a company, as a technical or technology startup to help hospitality staff make a decent living, because most hospitality staff have been commoditized and treated pretty poorly, and
Yes.
low pay rates, no benefits. So Nausta, their mission is to build up the technologies that will allow those professionals to earn a decent living and have a good career in it. So obviously, you have temporary people coming in and out, like, wannabe actors in LA who do it to make ends meet. But then there's a segment of that do it, and then they find a lot of meaning and satisfaction in that person-to-person interaction. So unlike Instant Teams, which is purely remote work and you're sitting in front of a computer, hospitality gig staffing means that you're going into an event, you're serving as a bartender or a captain or something, and you actually get to work with the team, make interpersonal connections. Maybe it's just for one night. If you stay with that team and you have the right culture, then you get to build upon success after success. And that is where the hospitality gig staffing, that's where you can compete on. The two main factors are price, so the price of the cost of the staff, what you pay them, but more importantly, it's quality and success of the events. Because if you pay them poorly and they don't perform well, then you're not going to go back to them. Right. So that's why Nausta, we're trying to structure a deal with Nausta so that we become their preferred staffing provider. And that focus on culture is key.
Interesting, because you don't think of hospitality as a traditional remote worker type of vertical, right? Because it's, generally you have to be on site. I mean, it's not at your home or it's not at an office, but it's usually someplace new, but it's still, you have to be at the site.
Yeah, and for Kat, that is where her mission is, to get that interpersonal connection. And it's to give like first responders, nurses, students, retirees, even pilots, the chance to have build those interpersonal relationships that are meaningful through meaningful work. And that for me was very appealing, instead of just a strict focus on raising money, making money, getting a payout. That's just Kat's cultural focus, which appeals to the founder of Nausta. And they shared this thing where basically they started their careers as community organizers. So they have this social mission that they are implementing by going the new venture route in order to enable a wider and more meaningful and more impactful mission accomplishment.
Yeah. That's very admirable.
Yeah, it is. And it's strange because, I met like through some other ventures, Steve Jobs' widow, his name escapes me, but they're social investors. Now you have a lot more social investors who don't care about 3 or 5 or 10 year turnaround. They make an impact investment over 10 or 20 years. And we had this event down in Auckland, New Zealand, and I just overheard someone saying that, oh yeah, we don't make investments based on a 3-year IRR. We're thinking about how we can impact the world over 20 years. And that just wasn't around when I was in private equity in the mainland.
Well, usually things are more concerned about the next 3 months.
Exactly.
For the current
And
quarter.
even,
We got to make our
yeah,
number. And I do see that. I mean,
yeah,
that general change in philosophy out there in the business world. I mean, there's still and you coming from private equity, you certainly understand.
yeah. But I guess I'm adopting and learning from the cultural aspects, and I'm contributing just my nuts and bolts execution, project management,
Hmm.
because you might have all these grand ideas and great mission, but if you can't get the work done and
Right.
just have I don't think there's anything that can displace the experience of growing a company from two people in a garage to hundreds or thousands of people, all the BS you have to deal with and what you focus on, what you don't, what you just let roll off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So at Gaper, one of the things we do is we help develop and scale products for startups. It sounds like Aloha is not quite a startup. They're like you said, 4 years now.
There is, but the systems to do the remote recruiting and then the onboarding and the training,
Mm-hmm.
even the video interviews and then like the 1099 like remote and then the I-9 verification,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. You have so many companies saying that, oh, we got this, but then they just have a back room full of people doing manual work. It's crazy how many people fake it till they make it and they don't. And then when you give them a complex project like we did with ADP, and a smart person implements it, but then nobody can support it,
Yeah,
you
that's
you still
amazing.
have so much of that.
Yeah.
So what does Gaper actually do? Because like time and attendance is critical, and you have very few successful integrations with time and attendance into like correct and accurate invoicing,
Mm-hmm.
and even more so payroll, because you can imagine you have like a dozen different roles for a busser, a bouncer, a bartender, or in the development world, like your top end developer versus your out of school guy or your
Mm-hmm.
machine learning expert versus that.
Mm-hmm.
And then within each one, you have maybe 5 different pay scales.
Right.
And then within each of those, even the same resource, after 3 months, they get bumped up from their tentative rate to a higher rate, and then on and on. And then how you track all of that, and how do you pay them accurately, and how you audit and report that. There's nothing out there that does it now.
True. There's some stuff to try. What Gaper does, we're really more of a technical firm. We concentrate on we hire technical professionals from all over the world that are very skilled at what they do, and we have them ready to go for that when a startup or any company needs technical help in the near future. We have them ready to go, as opposed to the old traditional model was, I would approach you and say, hey, what type of skills you're looking for? You're looking for Java or Python or whatever,
Right.
And then we'd go try to hire someone for that. We have them ready to go. And then when you have that need, because that's what we find is more and more companies need help now. So the example you used would be if someone had a specific system they needed integration with, we would have the people with the skills to do that integration. That what you just said is fairly complex. Not the integration itself probably is not as complex as the setup, it sounds like. Would you agree?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, the
Yeah, it's the
integration is
setup.
usually a web service, some type
Yeah,
of SDK, web service talking to each other, right?
yeah.
But it's
And
really more. Yeah. Go ahead.
it's the setup, and then but you have the sales approach, which says, oh, we can do that, but
Right.
the salesperson doesn't have the technical knowledge, but they make a commitment, and
Mm-hmm.
then months later, I mean, that was an actual conversation I had with ADP. I said, so you mean we spent the last 3 months investing hundreds of
Yeah.
hours into this integration, and now you're telling us it was all wrong?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And
and I mean, it takes different skill sets to implement something like that. Like
yeah,
I mean, from my background, I spent many years in high tech, and I also built technical sales teams, which is a different skill than a
yeah,
technical team and a sales team. It's got to be someone that can talk both languages, which is those people are hard to find.
yeah. But it is in high demand because
Right.
I mean, you have so many new ventures, and
Mm.
yeah, thank goodness there are so many new ventures, but there are critical functions that those new ventures have no experience in,
Mm-hmm.
but they just have a brilliant idea, perhaps,
Right.
and then they go and try to do it themselves, and they're trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But like Gaper, you have this, this wealth of expertise from doing it so many times.
Yes.
And then connecting the two is the critical thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been great. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you had any questions.
One thing that actually came up, I went to an alumni dinner last night for the Anderson School at UCLA, and one of the fellows there, I know him pretty well, but he does remote recruiting across industries, and his resources are primarily in Argentina because before he did fintech development.
Okay.
And we talked about before, but for 4 years he had a fintech startup, and they recruited and employed developers in Argentina. But he had a founder there, and then he was pushed out of the company most recently, and so he still has that background, but now he has a startup, and they have recruiters in Nicaragua who speak great English, who really welcome the work, and they do recruiting. Like for one of his projects is a glass company, and so they're recruiting blue collar workers in the U.S. to do kind of entry level Amazon type work. But just that recruiting function is very valuable.
Oh, yes.
And so we're gonna research and how to set up that kind of recruiting, and he'll build a team around it for us to recruit, across the nation in key cities for the hospitality staff. Because that's exactly how it needs to be done.
Right.
So a good analogy for the hospitality staff is it's just almost going to be exactly like Uber and Lyft in the early days, where you have a city manager, and you go out and you recruit, initially taxi drivers, and then, and in a more mature market, you compete between Uber, Lyft, Sidecar, et cetera, and you just do guerrilla marketing. And for the drivers themselves, they're going to work all three platforms at the same time, and whatever benefit, whatever makes most sense. So I imagine for hospitality staff, they're going to sign up with everybody, and then just go with whoever gives them the best gigs at the best pay.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. And you never know. Because you never know. One company might not have something on a particular weekend, or another one might have a really high end thing that pays better. So
and I've heard stories of especially in LA, guys or gals will have, and especially in early days, will have all three apps up: Uber, Lyft, Sidecar.
Yeah.
And then they take it, but then they're still up on the other one, so they'll get multiple requests. So they're speeding around town trying to hit everything, because you get paid on your response rate, acceptance, timeliness, all of that. But the ones that did it well, can make like $3,000 a week.
Yeah. No, I know. Is that the dog?
They burn out quickly. Hang on one second.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's all I had. Do you have anything else you want to ask or bring up?
No, I'm curious, whatever you might use this recording for a podcast, I would be curious to get the link to that.
Okay.
But even more so, I think there might be an opportunity for us, Gaper, to work, if not with Aloha Hospitality, with some other connections. I often run into startups that need help. So
yeah, that would be great. So why don't we do this? I'll talk to the founder of Gaper. I have a call with him tomorrow, and then we'll get back in touch with you, maybe either myself personally or through Emma, and we'll set up a follow-up meeting. How's that?
Okay, yeah, or just send me some literature, and if it comes up, I'll reach out too.
Okay, that sounds great.
Terrific.
Thanks. Have a great day. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.